those conflicts in your life, you have a way to name what you need so that you can get through them in togetherness. And you can reach me on anywhere. Just type in Laziena Hodge and you're going to find me. You're going to see my videos that looks like I'm in my bed, as Taryn said earlier, which is where I like to spend most of my time anyways. But but I am available professionally to host your events. As events, I can moderate a training. I do have a parenting cohort that I am starting back up again next month. It's just a way to get together with families so we can start passing on those generational blessings in the frame of relationship repair. I like to call it like join me at the repair table. And we're gonna still have shame, but we're gonna morally focus on curiosity so that we can see how we can be in better relationship with each other. Yeah.
I love
The
that
end.
introduction. Yeah, round of applause for my new best friend. When it comes to what is relationship betrayal to you?
Yeah. Relationship betrayal to me is when someone does something intentionally and they just don't care or consider the other person. I'm just okay. Well, in a softer way, relation betrayal is, when we're in relationship with each other and these are we make these relational promises that are going to honor the other person, but we kind of mess up and we don't really consider how that will affect the other person and the devastation that it brings. And therein lies this betrayal that is not only about the act or whatever's happened, but it's also the relationship that was betrayed. What about you?
For me,
Hmm.
I think relationship betrayal could be betrayal in the bedroom and outside of it,
Hmm.
like introducing someone into your bedroom event escapades without the other person knowing. That's literally introducing them into the bedroom. Another one could be that you're sharing intimacy with someone else when you're in a
Hmm.
committed relationship and you guys didn't talk about it. But in general, and more specific to myself, I think relationship betrayal is betrayal on a emotional level. And I think everyone knows the physical level, like adultery, cheating, things like that. But when it's like emotional, meaning that if I needed your support, for example, on my birthday because I was just sad and I needed your support, and we're in a relationship together, but you were busy with someone else, and that maybe that someone else was a man or a woman, whomever, and it took you away from the moment I need you, even though we both agree that we're going to be there for each other. I think that's a form of betrayal as well.
Yeah, I agree with all those forms. Um I've always I can't say always because most of the time what I'm experiencing is something that I have also done to somebody else in some capacity. And in my life, I felt like I betrayed my children by, not honoring their needs. And I felt like I betrayed my children when I betrayed my ex-husband. So, there was some infidelity on my part. And I'm not proud, not proud of it at all, but I acknowledge that I've done some work to repair that. And recently it's been part of the healing journey, but it also comes up as grief because then it was like I felt like karma came back around. I was like, hey, just so you know, I need to serve this to you. Here you go. And so it really affected me, and in so many ways I don't talk about it often because I mentioned to you earlier, I tend to protect the relationship because I have hope. And the other thing is that some sometimes I don't find the right environment. I feel like as much as I have awareness and I have growth and healing, I'm on a journey. There's so much self-accountability within me that I can end up punishing myself. So when I'm sharing something like this, I prefer for it to be witnessed rather than analyzed or, come up with a solution. Well, you should know better, or, like giving me some kind of an advice of how I can handle it differently. Because to me, in that space, it's not about the handling it differently or doing it differently. I just need to be able to feel it out and heal. I need to be able to say, well, no, this was done to me too. Like even if it means blaming, I'm not I'm blaming the person, yes, but only because I need to release it out of me. And the more I keep holding it back and saying, well, I'm the one who is ultimately responsible, I'm the one who ultimately responsible, I'm still bypassing all that experience where I experience hurt. And I feel like it's a way of me shaming myself. And not only shaming myself, also that part of me that believed that I should be punished for how I have done this to other people. So it was kind of interesting when I was thinking about it to reach out to you because I was like, I wonder what that space of like witnessing something like betrayal could be, where it's not really about other people, even if we talk about them, it's just having the safety. Does that make sense?
It does, and it reminds me of a point in my life where I wasn't, hmm, I wasn't able to get women in my 20s. And in my 30s, I was. And there's a part of me that always thought, okay, should I take advantage of that? Right? Because people were finding more and more attractive, so on and so forth, I was more successful. But then I realized that would be a betrayal of myself. But unfortunately, when I started getting into serious relationships, I began to understand that I wasn't ready. And I wasn't ready to be married or even ready to have children. But the biggest betrayal that I felt looking back now was maybe I was wasting people's time and time you can't get back. And the reason why I say I was wasting people's time is because there's some relationships I knew after a certain period of time it wasn't going to go to that level. And I didn't communicate that early enough on. I just kind of said that, okay, it's going well. Why mention it? Because maybe that other person didn't want that. But it was inappropriate for me to make that decision for them. Right. And it takes courage to admit some of the things that you've admitted. It takes courage to admit some of the things I've admitted and we continue to work through it. The biggest obstacles I see, and I'll speak on my last relationship, was the person didn't want to admit any of that. Right? It was you can show that person the best of everything in life and they weren't willing to accept it because it just wasn't in them.
Yeah.
Some of the people that you work with, how do you see them struggling with being honest with themselves about their expectations of relationships that could prevent some of the betrayal that we feel?
I think there's a level of like personal development becomes a projection, and it's more like, well, these people aren't doing it well and these people aren't showing up for me. And instead of looking and saying, well, how am I showing up for them? It's that in itself is a bit like, it was a betrayal of self, but that shame that comes with I have to admit that I've done this, but no, something was done to me first. And I feel like that's something that I could relate to because I like accountability. I really like when people take accountability. And if someone isn't taking accountability, it I I want to punish. I want to have justice. I want to make sure that they know that they were wrong and look at all the devastation that's happened. So it's easier to meet people when they are in that space because I can definitely relate. And that's kind of where the witnessing comes from for me is like at some in some form we all just need to have that space where we can be witnessed because it is part of the healing journey, which is kind of like why this topic kind of came up too, um when it comes to relationship dynamic. And I'll use my own. I when I came out of my marriage, it was such a devastating way that it ended. Like sexual abuse in a family is just terrible to overcome, because it doesn't only affect the victim, it affects everybody. But I felt like for me, I didn't take it internally. I didn't make it mean that. that I wasn't good enough or I was the problem. I was just like, oh my gosh, how could this have happened to my child? And I like, I went on this whole like protective like stance, so to speak, to make sure that they were okay. But to me, it was a betrayal of the family itself. And that was very, very difficult to go through. So I started a relationship with someone who saw me through that phase in my life. And they introduced me to inner child work and a lot of different communication style. As a matter of fact, the whole repair language is basically the concept of the relationship that I was building with that person. Like we were building together. So I was all in. Like, before I even got into the relationship, I sat with myself and I was like, with the way that this all ended in the first place, I don't want to close myself off to love. I don't want to, I was like 38. I had three kids, and then I was like, this is my mom's life. I don't want to do this again. So I was very intentional. I learned like what my attachment style was, what my love languages were. Like I did like really see how I showed up and how the role that I played. So I sat there one day in the car and I was like, you know what? I really like this person and I want to go like I want to give it a real chance. Like I'm all in. And I was like, if it doesn't work out, my children are going to see me heal in a healthy way. Right. And that was the kind of prep talk that I gave myself. So when I went into the relationship, I would be like, um, every conversation like we would read books together and we would reflect like how that shows up for me, what my thoughts are, what their experiences are. Any movie or TV show we watch, like we would just like dissect. Even a song, we would just kind of like, oh, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for you? And how it relate to our lives. So there was a lot of connection there. And I also was learning about him, like what his fears were. So when he did get upset or he was dysregulated, I knew that the fear was coming from like a father wound or a mother wound. And I'm like, okay, we're working through that. Like we are, we're just growing. So there are moments when I was growing and then he was growing. And so, we would clash and we would have this connection. But I also, would offer reassurance and be present in the moment. Now, that's not to say that I was like completely innocent. I don't want to paint myself like I'm this innocent person. I learned, but I was also expecting to be learned back. So when I had my emotions, they were like, "Oh, where is it coming from? Let's explore that together." And then when those weren't being met, I would start to react. And then I would do the push away. I would do like the avoidant, like I run away and then I come back and then run away and come back. And that would never make anybody who's already unsure feel safe, right? But again, not to get into too much of the blame part of it. Um, what I didn't expect was that there would be this relational betrayal that would end up teaching me about relational safety. So, this person ended up, going away and ended up having a child and then um breaking up with me. And so they could focus on the child. And then the thing that stays with me that really affects me now, and it's part of my grieving, is that when all of that happened and I found out, it was months after he didn't even tell me, and he came back and was acting weird, and then even like was physical with me. And I'm such a big no-no when it comes to that. Like we're not sharing people. Don't dip that stick in something else. And then like that's something that to me was just like, man, that's awful. And while I knew that we were in disconnection. I was trying to save the relationship. I was doing a lot of work to come up with practices and like all of these experiences to make it better, even to accept the child, like even to go that far to say this is something that we can seriously work out. But, you know, um when I found all of that out, he looked me in my eyes and he held my hands and he said, Laziena, I know I don't have any reason to ask this of you, but will you please wait for me? And so I waited. And then I waited. And a year and a half went by, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna do everything I can to heal myself. So when we come back together, I am, we're gonna be new, we're gonna have new lens because I knew him to be somebody who will work on himself too. And I reached out to him because I went on his Facebook. I don't ever do this, but I went on his Facebook and I saw a picture of him and the girl and pregnant belly. And that was one of the most devastating feeling that I could have ever like experienced. Like I've been through a lot, but that was just like my core. Everything, I just felt everything broke inside of me at that moment. And so I reached out and I was like, okay, well, I've been waiting still, so let's at least give me closure because this is like I keep holding on for hope. And so he started communicating with me then. And for 6 months, it seemed like we were gonna start, you know, getting back together. Like there was hope. And the 6 months was really awful because I wasn't getting the care and the attention that I deserved, and there was no acknowledgement of any of the experiences that happened that impacted me. It was simply like, well, I energetically broke up with you, and that was the end of us. And then I slept with this person, and I became a father. So I'm gonna go down that fatherhood route, and I still don't know what I want. And I'm like, well, but now we're just repeating the same thing. We're going back into the same relationship dynamic again, and we're not really acknowledging the growth that needs to happen here. And I shared my feelings and I was crying, and that was it felt like that was the worst thing I could have done because that's when he was like, well, I'm gonna walk away. And so to me, what happened to all of the relational promises? What happened to all of the ways where I was being shamed or blamed, or I was allowing myself to be shamed and blamed for how I was showing up in the relationship dynamic when in my heart of hearts, if somebody was to really dissect these periods of time, I was really trying my best. And I understand that so was he, but this is like it was like I did not deserve that at all, like in in no way. And there was never really like an apology. There was never really a you I didn't hear those words. All I heard was like, you're worth it. And we're gonna, I just don't know what I want and I love you, so I'm gonna walk away from you. And to me, like, how do I now, right? As a 45-year-old woman, I feel like that's such a hard thing to be like I'm open to new relationships, but so other people I find are also wanting to be met and they're wanting to be seen. And the person that I feel like would need to be in my life would I would have to ha at least gone through something similar and understand like, okay, what you've been through is not okay. That compassion piece, I don't think I've ever really heard somebody say, or men especially say to me, Laziena, wow, I'm so sorry that you went through that. Nobody should have gone through that. And you just wanted love and you just wanted to feel taken care of. What I end up getting is like bypass or not acknowledging it or like kind of admired from afar. And then when they're they're not being able to receive what in a way that I can give, then I become the problem. So it's like, this is a big betrayal. It needs so much healing. It needs so much compassion. It needs so much witnessing. And I'm certainly not becoming the victim of it. So what happens next? Like, what does that even look like? So I think I talk a lot now. Please jump in here.
You got me thinking of a whole bunch of things because from a man's perspective, because I'm going to give
Mhm.
a man's perspective, I'm going to say in general.
Because
So I'm going
you
to
are a
base this
man.
because I'm a man, very masculine man.
Oh,
So
yes.
two perspectives. So if I base this off of some of the men that I used to hang around with, some of the men will say that, well, this is your karma.
Hmm.
And I think some people will say that, right? Now, if I were to take off that hat, because I don't talk to those guys anymore, and put on Coach Terrain and say that the work that you've done is a reflection on that, and maybe that situation happened because it just indicated that there's work to still be done, right? And I think you and I will agree because that's probably what we would tell the clients that we work with, right? Now, human to human, bestie to bestie, I'll be like, what were you thinking? Right? Because you'd probably say the same thing to me if it was reversed and you said, Train, you gotta wait for a girl who's pregnant by another guy and you gotta do all these things, right? But I think when I hear that, I think it's more of a betrayal of your, well, it's not more so, but it's a
Absolutely.
betrayal of yourself,
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
right? Like looking, like now that you've shared that story, like what's your thoughts on, are you surprised you went through that?
No, I'm not surprised. I am not surprised that I went to that. Well, for to validate what you're saying, it is a betrayal of myself. Like that's kind of what we started with, right? Like I already knew that that's what this is just more for witnessing purposes, right? But I I did it. I was for subconsciously, I didn't realize it was recreating my father wound completely. Like an unemotionally available man trying to get love from him and feel loved and doing everything that I can to do that. On another, and then of course the same thing. Like my dad had a child with someone else, and wanted my mom to raise a child. In this situation, I was like, oh, of course, I'd want to. Let's be, that's just replaying that same dynamic there, like 100%. Like I wasn't chosen, and he'd given me all of the reasons. Like I didn't need more evidence. It was already there. I just have hope. I know what like repair feels like. The other part of me that consciously chose to do it was because I met his little boy. We did a lot of inner child work together, right? So I played with his little boy. We had lots of activities that we did together. I met him in his tenderness. He's met me in my tenderness. And at the time I didn't even realize that I didn't have that relationship with my inner child. I was conscious of my inner child, but not the relationship that I have now. But I needed to earn her trust. And I really believe that this is the person that she wanted me to fight for, so to speak. And I was going to put in all effort to say that this is the person that I honored. This is the person that I said I loved and who I believed in. And, um, and I wanted to journey with. And sometimes that journey needs to be hard. We just didn't have the tools in the moment. So I wanted to prove to myself that I was going to always go after my dreams. Now I know that I can still go after my dreams without abandoning myself. However, it's just a thing that's there, like in the morning time when I wake up, I know better. I know I'm worthy. I'm a fucking badass. Like I don't worry about that, Like my self-worth is like not a thing. But there's that moment where it's like, man, this is just really sad. Like, how do you like have somebody who like will ride or die for you, like is there through the thick and the thin, and like you're telling them like, oh my gosh, you are my person. I love you, I care about you, but then the next minute it was so easy to disconnect. It was so easy to walk away. The second time, the third time, like, like I knew, like I could tell this is what he like I am the person that he just couldn't decide. It's like what at 40 freaking 4 years old now, when are you gonna realize that okay, I maybe messed up, or I messed up, I gotta fix this. And he had this way of like, I think there's a saying where an apology is change behavior, but I wouldn't know that there's change behavior because it didn't seem like it's changed. Anyways, I went a little too far into what we were talking about in the first place. But it was just kind of like that's just sad because there's so much misalignment that happens. One person's ready, the other person isn't. When he was ready, I wasn't ready, and then this back and forth thing. And now it's gotten so bad that love just couldn't exist together. Like it exists, but just not flowing together. And that to me is just really awful for something to end in that way. Like com it just didn't need to be that devastating. So the that's the thought that replays in my head. Like I'll wake up and I'll have that memory of like when he held my hand and asked me to wait. And then I'm like, why the hell did I wait? Or like, I'll drive. We have so many memories in this damn place. I swear I want to go to like a different country at this point because, I'll drive by and you want me to come to Canada. It's so cold there. But it's maybe that's what I need. But it's like, these like I'll remember his favorite drink or the way that he smiles or the way when he gets upset, how his lips twitch or what his fingernails feel like. Like, like these little things that were like really adorable and I really enjoyed the person. Like it wasn't just how they made me feel like because it wasn't always great, but I knew that. I was like, oh, we're just growing. Like we're gonna have moments. So it's like that's just so freaking sad. Like it just feels devastating every time. And now I've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, it's like maybe 30 seconds of devastation and then we're good again. But like in those moments, that's kind of what it feels like.
I was in a relationship a while back where the person I was dating was working in the States. Actually, she was working there, and eventually the plan was we both were going to live there and ultimately live together because we were living separately. When we first got together, I had concerns. So I started asking my questions like a lot of people do. Okay, what kind of relationship do you want? Where do you think it's going to go? Things like that. Because I was working towards similar to, I was like, okay, I want this to be the final relationship, or I want it
Yeah.
to go the distance or as far as it can, right? And as healthy as it can. So you ask the questions to make sure everyone's aligned. So even though there's things that I didn't really like early on, I was like, okay, we can work on these because they're not red flags, they're yellow ones.
Mm-hmm.
So a year and a half to it, I saw a red flag. And I was like, hey, I'm noticing this. Can we discuss it? And she was hesitant and she ran away, avoidance style. Eventually, she came back, which is fine. I understand it. You can move forward. When I started to notice it more and more, I was like, Terrain, you got to keep an eye on this because it's repeating and we don't know if she's going to be able to correct it because we know that you're not able to move forward with it continuing to happen because it's triggering you and it's a behavior that she's consistently doing. Just after the 2 year mark in our relationship, we were in a part of Canada and we're on vacation and something came up which tied in all the other stuff that I was witnessing. So I said, okay, Terrain, I'm on vacation now, okay? You have 36 hours to survive this relationship because you're going to end it after your beautiful feet touch your native soil, okay? And let me tell you, that 36 hours might as well have been 36 months. It felt forever. And the reason why it felt forever is because for me, when you're aware that things are falling apart, it's not like it falls apart like a building exploding. It's one brick, two bricks, five bricks, 10 bricks. After my relationship ended, I did some reflection. I spoke to a couple of mentors because I felt like I betrayed myself. Because I remember the conversation I had just over 2 years ago where it was the first year and I'm like, hey, these are yellow flags, but they're continuing. I believe I was too hard on myself. Sometimes we love not with our minds, but with our heart. And that is okay. What I would say when it becomes difficult then is when we continue to love from our hearts, but we don't hear the voices of our head
Mm-hmm.
telling us these are yellow flags. This is a green flag that's becoming a yellow one. This is a yellow one that's becoming a red. For yourself and those who are betrayed in the relationships, like me, like many others, why do you think we ignore the voice in our head saying that pay attention to this and be aware of the behaviors that's coming about because of it?
I mean there's several things. I feel like it can be on a from a unconscious space, right? It's just us wanting to be love and be loved, right? And whatever that self-abandonment looks like, it's just, let's go with it. Um, I think for me, I believe for me is because I really know the power of repair, um, and redemption. I feel like I was that person I was a big ass red flag. Like I'm talking about a red flag as far as the way as a mother. Oh gosh. N- 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 Non-shamingly, I was not the mother that I am today, and thankfully my children opened up their hearts and gave me an opportunity to do that differently. The way that I treated my ex-husband, I'm not very proud of. Like a lot of things that I'm not proud of. So I'm proud of this version of me and the woman that I, was becoming, and I am, and in that space who I was becoming. So for me, like I just always witness compassion and grace and forgiveness. So and being able to receive, I was always able to receive. So when we aren't able to receive or we're not able to be in those spaces, those red flags, they just end up staying. And we keep on listening to them. Um, I think for me, even though when there is red flag, I believe I look at myself. I was once a big ass red flag and I'm no more. So people do deserve to have chances to show that they want to be in integrity. And I like meeting people in their highest form. So um, in so many ways. Like my ex told me once, like he apologized to me one time and the next day he was like, I felt you receive it. He was like, he felt my whole body softening. And so like I think about those moments instead of the voices in my head. Like I think about like how great it can be to come back in relationship with each other from a new perspective with total understanding and accountability and really preserving love, like showing that love does exist even when it looks like it can't. Um, but as far as other people go, I mean, it really depends on the dynamic. I really feel like the subconscious part is just mom or dad wanting mom or dad's love and ignoring the red flags just to get it. And for me, it's, the whole self-abandonment of me and accepting things that I don't deserve in a
Do you
self-punishing way.
do you think sometimes then we confuse the love we need versus the love that we want?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I feel like I said this to you before. I don't know what my emotional needs are, but you have to meet them. And when you don't meet them, I get to punish you. So, I think that when it comes to emotional needs, that's a big one. And if we don't know what our emotional needs are, then we can't receive it. And we try to make the other person receive the love that we want and we want to give, but they can't receive it either because their needs are going to be different than mine and yours.
And I think that's something that could be so confusing. We can look at someone and say that I want to be in a relationship with this person, but that person may not be what we need, right? Instead of
Mhm.
love, it's lust,
Yeah,
right? We're looking through our eyes instead of looking through our hearts, our soul. And it goes back to that saying, right? I want Terrain, but I don't want Terrain as much as I don't want him to be with someone else.
that is true. Yeah. That actually sounds interesting to me because I remember someone saying something like that. I didn't pay attention to it. It didn't feel like a red flag, but it is a red flag.
Yeah, I was recently told that one of my exes, she told me that. She's like, it's okay that we're not together, but seeing you with someone else, it just upsets her. And you try to be amicable, right? But the thing is, you necessarily can't be, and that's okay. But what I look for these days in a relationship is let's just laugh together. Like we're at the point in our life, like we have more years behind us than we do in front of us. So let's laugh together. Let's enjoy the time together. Um, let's be honest. Not only in what we say, but let's be honest in our behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's sometimes where you can look at someone and they'll tell you that, let's say they're married or whatever the case is. And you're like, really? Like,
Which part of you?
yeah, like everything about them doesn't show that. And I spoke to this with one of the ladies I was working with. I was like, when you're in a relationship and it's something that you want and it's healthy, every fiber of your existence should exude that you're in a relationship. Because here's the thing now. We talked about betraying ourselves, we talked about betraying the other person, but are you betraying the relationship?
Yes, relational betrayal. Like we have a responsibility and when we're in a relationship to honor that other person's needs too, like to want to meet that person. I feel like if when I'm in a relationship, I want everybody to know who I'm in a relationship. I'm proud of that. Like that's my person. Like that's who brings me joy. It's who annoys the shit out of me, and I may want to stab him in the face sometimes. I'm just kidding, but that's a red flag. No, I don't want to stab anybody. But yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I definitely agree with you on that.
No, no, they're here for you. They're not necessarily here for me, right? So they
Why
want
would they be here for you? You're the
your
guy that
wisdom
came
from
out of the
heavens.
magazine and everything.
Well,
My
you know,
friend is in a magazine. My
because
bestie.
I'm no longer betraying myself. So that's why I'm able
That's
to
right.
accomplish these things, right? That's why I'm able to accomplish these things. So, and that's another thing,
Yeah.
your goals.
Yeah.
How many people are giving up themselves in unhealthy ways for the relationship, right? Like, do you see that happening? If so, why do you think it's happening?
It happened with me because I felt like the relationship, right, was more important than my goals. Because I felt like we were dreaming something together. There's this light that I felt like we were um aligned with. And so the relationship is more important than anything else that's above or beyond because when it comes to relationships, it takes work. It takes intentionality. It takes really putting yourself aside sometimes where you may like I may have to carry the emotional labor for a period and then the other person like it's a give or take, not like into like I have to do this all the time. I'm choosing to. But for me it was like the relationship was everything and I did it with every single person I'm a committer. Like, oh gosh. You never worry about me being committed. I don't know why that was an issue. But like I got married when I was 18. And I was married for 6 years and I got married for 12 years and then in a relationship for three. That's like, there's no dating. I'm like, what is this dating thing? So, for both all of those relationships, I put everybody ahead of my goals. I even for that 6 months where I was instead of working towards my business or my goals, I was more focused on communicating, making sure things got better, being available, needing to have clarity, just focus on that other person and not myself. What I love though is the thing that I learned is that I had this dream, like a vision where it was shared. And so I just didn't stop the vision. I just kept going with my part in it. And this is the first time I've ever done that, and I'm really proud of it. I was just abandon everything for this other person because I felt like the relationship needed nurturing over everything else.
Do you think you're worthy of long-lasting love?
Absolutely. This
Why?
is, I was asking the wrong person. I believe that everybody's worthy of long-lasting love. Like, why wouldn't we be? You ever heard the saying is love people the way God would love them? And I'm not an institutionalized kind of religion person, but I think like for me, I put love in a container and I say, this is the person that I want love from. Love exists, but I put it onto that one person. And the whole time the love was me. So in that context, then everybody is worthy of love, even because even when I was going through my shit, it didn't. It's the people who met me with love and kindness that really inspired me to change and made me want to become a better person.
A part, you know, if I'm going to be completely honest, because I'm
I
always
hope you
honest
will
with you,
be. Yes.
I don't know.
You don't
I
know
can
that I'm
sit,
worthy of love forever?
not you, not you. I'm
Oh,
talking about, I don't know if everyone is worthy of love. I think everyone will, I think most people will get to a point where they are worthy of love, right? But I think there's some people that are broken who are searching for love. And when they get that love from someone who is on their journey but further ahead, I think they damage that person or they're a setback to that person because they're not ready for
they're
love.
not in alignment. Yeah.
Yeah. And that person knows that they're not ready for love. Right. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't talk about because that's not only a betrayal of yourself, that's a betrayal of all three areas yourself, that
Yeah.
person, and the relationship because you know, right? It's like the person who has, and to the single people out there, I love you guys, but I'm just going to use you guys as an example. It's like the
I'm
chronically
single.
single people who are united because of their dislike for relationships getting together, and that one person now who's divorced or who's single joins them, and their whole
Oh.
perception of dating changes.
That's such toxic culture though. Like, so I agree with you, right? With what you're saying. Because if I like where I am on my journey, right? If I go and I know that somebody hasn't done the work, they're not aware that they have patterns, and I want to give them a chance, we are going to have disagreements because that is where the conflict happens. That's what breaks and makes and breaks a relationship. That's when an inner child is like at its most rambunctious and is looking for to be right or to I we all want to be right, especially when we're arguing. I want you to see that I am right because you did something so that I am reacting to it or whatever the case is. Whereas I may need to be the relationally responsible one and say, okay, let's pause for a second and come back later or understand how each other played a part in this and what is new information that we can get from this that would allow us to move on. So if somebody doesn't have that maturity, then no, they're not gonna that's gonna be so hard because one person is gonna be carrying that emotional labor all the time. Now, does that mean that that person doesn't deserve love? That's not, for me, that's not the case. They do deserve love. It doesn't mean that they deserve integration. It doesn't mean that I need to be a part of their lives. I can say, well, I love and I care about you, Train, and you're an awesome friend, but there's certain things that happens and it it's affecting me. So we can have the opportunity to talk about that and, see how we can do that differently. Or I can love you from a distance. That's the best way that I can love you is if I'm not involved in you. I can call you and I have this thing going on, can you give me some advice, hey, what is your tips on podcasting or whatever, like we can have a mutual agreeable relationship but not a romantic one or one that's built on that I can trust you for if I know that you're not going to have the capacity to show up for me, why would I put that expectation on you? Now I'm expecting you to meet me where you can't. I'm the one that's like holding you holding you now to a standard that you can't meet, and then when you can't meet it, I'm going to punish you. So it's best to love them from afar. It doesn't have to be integration.
Exactly. Just give them expectations that they've earned and not expectations that we've placed upon them.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. It's like everybody's gonna show up. I feel like I'm gonna show up for if I say that this is something that I'm encountering because I decided like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll just go start dating. It's not going well, man.
It's not easy. Dating is not easy. It's
No.
definitely not easy.
Because it's like it's a lot of mismatch and it's a lot of misalignment and a lot of people are singing and I'd hate saying that this way. What I'm encountering is that people are saying who they are. Like I am a XYZ blah, 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 or like I'm an avoidant with my moon and stars in Taurus's ass or whatever. But it's just It's like, okay, that's who you think you are and that's who you say you are, but when it comes to a relationship and when it comes to showing up in the moment, in the grind, in the trenches, what does that look like? Is that really who you are? No, I want to understand, like, how do you behave when you're angry, when you're sad, when you're overwhelmed, when you are like not yourself and you're not okay? Those are the moments that really matters in a relationship. So when we're talking about who we are, and I'm saying, well, I'm Laziena and I'm an Aquarius and I'm a former avoidant and I'm in relational repair. But then when it comes to actually showing up and receiving and listening with compassion and being genuinely there, if I'm not in alignment with those words and actions, then that affects everybody else. And so I find like people are good people and they are doing the things that they need to do in their lives. But when it comes to another person, it has to be a co-creation. I have to be interested in you. I have to, like, there, and again, there was, this may be a little bit of a tough subject, and I don't know, I didn't ask your permission. So if you need to set a boundary, you can. I was just waiting for you to be done.
No, you can ask anything you want of me. Go ahead,
Okay.
continue. Yeah, there's no
Because like
boundaries here.
Because, like, when you told me about how your grandmother passed away, right? That was something that I immediately fell into your heart right away. It wasn't something that I needed to know. And of course, I want to know more. I want to understand how you overcame it, what it meant to you. But just as you just said that once, right? I know that my grandmother was very special to me. And the lessons and blessings and things that I got from my grandparents are treasures. And when my father was murdered when I was 8, it was my grandparents that took me in. So I know the gravity of what your grandmother meant to you. And that to me tells me that you have a really caring and warm heart, very compassionate, and that there are times when that grief is going to come up and you're not going to be okay, and you're not going to need me to be like, "Oh my gosh, get over it," or you've come so far, or look at all the bright things that you did, or like anything that's going to take away from what you're experiencing in that moment. I know in that moment your heart just needs to be held. And so that comes with a level of compassion. But when someone hears my story, for example, and they just kind of bypass it, and then the next day they want me to listen to them and be compassionate. I don't have a problem doing that. But now it's not gonna make me feel met. It's not going, I'm not gonna feel like you really honored my journey when I'm pouring that same amount of effort into you. And so it doesn't mean that the person is bad. It just means that I'm not willing to sacrifice I'm not willing to betray myself anymore to pour into someone else. I don't mind pouring in, but as long as it doesn't come with that self-sacrificing thing where Lazina doesn't, ends up at the end of the day holding all of the emotional labor and everything else and then reliving the trauma from the past. Like also deserve to have that same inquiry or that same effort in how I show up and it being recognized and also feeling valued, like, wow, you actually get me. So it's like, I mean, I feel like sometimes I'm asking for too much, but then also like, isn't that what relationship is supposed to be about?
You're supposed to ask, and you're supposed
Hmm.
to ask and ask and ask. It doesn't mean it's always going to get granted, but you always want to ask because you won't know if you don't ask.
Exactly.
And you raised a really good point when you mentioned my grandmother because you can relate because you know the importance of your grandmother, of grandparents. Unfortunately, that was one of the difficulties I faced in my previous relationship where the person said they understood, but the behaviors didn't match. All right. And it exploded. And then when it exploded, you put in a situation where you begin to question yourself, okay, because it's important to me, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be important to other people, but the expectation always is we're in a relationship together. When you cry, I have a shoulder for you to cry on. When you need a hug, I should be the first person. The issue that I had in my previous relationship was we had to work to get to the point where she was my first person that I would go to because that was easy for me to do. On her end, it wasn't easy. And the interesting thing about it, now that I look back on it, I'm remembering it because you brought it up. We talked about community last time we spoke. That whole circle, anytime something bad happens, they go to each other because they're united in a common dislike of something, of relationships, of whatever. Because maybe they're married before they divorce, maybe they can't make it work out. So now when one of them gets in a relationship, it's like this unknown object is trying to penetrate this circle, right? Whereas it's supposed to be when you're dating a guy, you pull him out of that. He's still going to have his friends, but you're the priority because the relationship in the hierarchy is always the relationship, the people in it, and then the friends.
Mhm.
Some friends can never accept that. And I think that's where she struggled with. And when it became an issue, just got to the point where I said, okay, you can't serve two masters. And she kind of like giggled, right? Because she's like, what does that mean? I was like, well, that's what my grandmother used to say, rest in peace. Two masters is not like slave masters. It's basically you're unevenly yoked. Like you're trying to satisfy every single person or every single thing, and you can't because now you're not satisfying everyone. You're going to have to choose. And for those who don't make that choice, the choice would be made for you,
Mhm.
right? Because in their mind, they're probably thinking, well, I'm betraying my friends, but they're not really your friends because they're not helping you to grow because you want something that they can't give to you. But when you have that taken away now, your default is to be what? The pig going back to its own filth.
Mhm. And I think when it comes to relate, like, to add to what you're saying, it comes to the relational dynamic, right? Like, I am a person who have emotional needs. I need to learn what my emotional needs are so that I can meet that within myself and then ask for support. Doesn't mean that my partner is going, and if we're just talking romantic relationships here, right? It doesn't mean that my partner has to meet it every time, but at least there's a desire to, and they show up in a way that allows me to feel safe. There's relational safety, there's relational trust, there's relational, like, obviously have to come already packaged with all of that so that I know how to meet my needs. Now, is it realistic that every single person who's in a relationship knows what their needs are and how to meet it with each other? That's not going to be entirely possible right away unless they're codependent people, which even then it's not really like, oh, yes, I'm codependent and I agree to be in a codependent relationship. You're going to meet my codependent needs. We still have to be able to receive our needs. So if I don't even know what my needs are and you're trying to meet them, it's just going to cause more conflict. But in the sense of, I, you, just as much as I care about my children, if they got to school on time, if they're stuck at the side of the road, whatever and those are just limiting things. But if there's an emotional need with them, I want to be there. I want to show up. So in a relationship, two people have to at least be able to want to show up and not expect the other to be the one that shows up all the time. And how is that going to look when you have friends involved and you're prioritizing your friend over your partner where you don't already have emotional safety? And so when I think about this, right, I started my at 3, I felt disgusted with myself. At 6, I believed that I wasn't lovable, and I made decisions and choices that reinforced that beliefs in my avoidant behaviors and my whatever behaviors. So the person that I meet is also gonna have a belief that sabotaged them their whole life too. So how do we meet each other in the middle and understand what that looks like if we're both not available to and again, I understand what you meant by the two masters, but like to also serve, like to be able to like be in a servant relationship rather than a just me. Well, this is all of the things I've done for myself. So you're gonna come in here and you're gonna treat me like a queen that I deserve. And I am not gonna have any room for where you may mess up and need grace because you're learning me or I'm learning you. I feel like there's such a learning that needs to happen and we get so stuck in our I have my needs, you have to meet them. We miss out on the journey and the joy that happens in that exploration.
Do you think some people don't want to do the work because in many cases they would have to be alone to do the work and they can't deal with the loneliness?
Yes. And then I tried to be there because I remember when you said that you didn't want to do the work alone and it would be a lonely journey. So, of course, I want to be there for you, even if it means being punished for it.
Someone, and I read this somewhere. No, I watched it somewhere in an interview. I wish I remember the name of the person, but I shared it a few times, and they said that one of the biggest issues for those who are doing the work, especially those who are in the industry that you and I are in, is that we have healing, coaching, mentoring, therapy, whatever it is you want to call it, energy. And unfortunately, we're going to attract people who need that healing, coaching, mentoring energy. It becomes our responsibility then to filter those people out, whereas the everyday people don't necessarily have to do that because those who need the work, they'll just filter themselves out. Right? Do you agree
Mm.
with that, or do you think it's something else, or could be something else?
No, I agree with that. I agree with that. And I think there's some caveats to it. I feel like when it comes to the coaching world itself, right? Everybody has something unique. Everybody has their thing that they went through in life that's their purpose, right? That they end up bringing to other people. But oftentimes we get so stuck in the, and I think I just made a video about this, where self-development, we forget that self-development is internal and personal development is also internal, and we use the knowledge that we have to weaponize other people or to to like look down on them. And really and truly, the work is inward. So when those things come up, we're not necessarily looking to see how we can grow from it. We're like, oh, well, what is the transformation for them? And I care more about their transformation than I care about my own self. So I'm in it for that transformational experiences. And one of the things that I have done in order to like be mindful of that is I go to transformational courses so that I can be a part of transformation so I don't need it in my life when it comes to the people that I'm interacting and I'm wanting to be in relationship with, because then I don't have that energy of like you have to transform. On the other hand, there's absolutely nothing freaking wrong about growing, man. Like, I'm so sick and tired of people who like to tell people who are on the journey. Like, this guy, I've known him for 7 years, right? And he could, like, every time we reconnect, we have the same freaking argument. And he turned to me the other day and he said, "You don't, I'm asking this from curiosity, but you don't think that you overthink and not everything is that deep?" And I'm like, man, if you only know, like, how am I supposed to answer that question? Because it is that deep. It absolutely is that deep. I have the ability to sit in someone else's heart and feel all of the things that they're not feeling, that they can't, they're not even aware that they're hiding and how it's coming out. And I'm like not trying to like be in the person's heart. I just on like the minute I meet them and I kind of like get to know them, okay, I understand their journey and I am not here to fix them. I'm just here for the journey. But yeah, things are that deep because we can't, what is it the saying? We can only meet people as deeply as we met ourselves. You know what it's like to come out of, oh my gosh, grief, self-abandonment, um, repair within yourself. Like, these pivotal moments where it's like, oh my God, I'm not gonna do that to myself anymore. I was the problem. It was me. And so knowing that it's like the journey is different, it's softer, it's lighter, but we just have to be able to go there. And so if people can't go there, like we have to have like now these boundaries, which I feel gets used against us, like, oh well, you're healed. What do you mean? Is that mature? Like, how you're gonna set a boundary? Like, yes, I'm gonna set a boundary. That's healthy. Anyways, I'm not trying to argue with them in my head. I do. And sometimes if the information calls for it. But I feel like when it comes to personal development, I've had people say, "Oh, maybe you're going too hard. Isn't that too much?" For me to be a better person, like I gotta get through for me to build a business, I have to face all of my fears and then face all of other people's fears in order to market to them. So yes, it's gonna take a level of personal development that I'm gonna have to continue doing in order to grow. But absolutely right, we are gonna run into people who do need it. And they also and people who also think that they are aware and on the journey as well. And it's not. It's just a bunch of reflections that are telling me that I need to like, go inwards. Let's go inwards now. Sorry, that was my tangent.
My concern then is always those who maybe say that they're empaths and they'll tolerate the abuse, the mistreatment, because they may say that, well, it's my duty to fix this person. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't fix someone that doesn't want to be fixed, right? It's hard enough to fix yourself, let alone an unwilling participant. So for those who may think that I'm an empath, I'm a coach, I'm a therapist, this is why I'm here to take on all these bad relationships, it's not. It truly means that there's something that you're doing consciously or otherwise that's attracting these types of people. Now you can attract them, filter it out, and move on. But if you're attracting them, keeping them, try to retrain them like a stray cat or dog, and then wondering why, oh my God, he stole money from me. Oh my God, she lied to me. She is emotionally abusive. What was the expectation going into it, right? Like, did you know, there's someone that she had bad relationship after bad relationship, and she says, "Train." I asked her, I was like, "What do you look for in a man?" And she was like, "He has to have big hands." I was like, "Big hands." I'm like, "Okay, big hands, strong, safety." I was okay. I can understand big hands, not big hands in that way, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to keep it PG. So that's what they meant by big hands.
I want to know
So
what
I
the other
asked
way
her,
is.
"You don't want to know what the other way is? Watch. It's like big feet, big hands, big feet. If you know that joke." Yes. So when it comes to big hands now, so I asked her the question, if he was homeless and had big hands, would you date him? She was like, I was like, that's the problem right there. There should be no hesitation. For those who are homeless, my heart goes out to you. This is not a judgment. I'm just saying, right? There should be no judgment there. Because here's the thing, if he didn't have big hands, but he was religious like you want him to be, he was treating you right, you would say no. And she's like, yeah. I was like, your preference is now your prison. So where's the betrayal? She's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, you don't want to love. I'm like, you're lying to yourself. So now what you're doing is you're betraying yourself in a way that is kind of selfish because you know that there's other qualities out there that should be more valuable to you, but you're ignoring them because of a preference that really doesn't hold any weight in where you want to go in life. Do you see some people being so trapped by their preference that they can't see successful partners out there?
Yeah, man, that's just recreating their own limiting belief and like it's just not conscious. But the thing is like, why do we go so surface? Like, really, somebody's hands? Like, I want loyalty. I want devotion. I want somebody who has emotional capacity, who can hold me through a hard time, who can celebrate with me through a good time, who knows how to be present, who has done some, I mean, I'm looking at that person's life. I'm witnessing them. Like, what have they overcome? What are they doing with their lives? How are they co-creating? How are they, um, like being an empath, I think it's just another label that people like to stick on to them and so that they could carry this, like, I don't know, what is it? I forgot the name of it, but how some people want to carry like it's like a victim mindset in a way too. But like at the same time, an empath can feel what people are feeling, but has enough, but is not attached to the outcome of it, isn't attached to it. Like whenever I do that thing where I'm in someone's heart, sometimes I'm not even trying to. It's up to me to understand that if I go too far here, I'm gonna get stuck. And so I have to have balance so that I can still be functional and still be present with my relationships, because if I am doing this thing in like a workspace and then my child needs me, I can't carry that over to my child, and then I also need to make sure that I preference and take care of myself. So to go into like I'm an empath, so I am taking, I am taking on other people's things and I have to go surface level. I can see how some people would do that because that's what helps them. But I would say go inwards and actually cultivate a relationship with your empath because it's different. It's not carrying responsibility. It's a responsibility, a moral responsibility as a human being to serve humanity. And if you're not there yet, then that needs strengthening. But to go to like somebody's hands or what they're wearing or their hair or like, come on, like yes, physical attraction has to be there. I understand that. But at the end of the day, that's not the only thing. I really want to know that person. Like, we're gonna go to their hands when they're not loyal. Like, you want to feel taken care of and emotionally safe, but they don't have any emotional awareness, but they have big hands. So what, and that just blocks all of the other blessings that can come in. All
They,
the
they
other
may be abusing you with those big hands,
stuff.
right? So, a backhand is a backhand after at the end of the day, right? But no, you're right. There's so many other things that you want to be physically attracted to the person. I get that, right? But if I were to put on this, what's interesting about empaths? Always, for me, and this is anecdotal, you hear them talk about how they're empaths when it comes to their friends, but when it comes to their partner, they know nothing. So where's the empathy? How come it stops in the household? Outside of it, oh, I knew my friend was going through that. Okay, what's your partner going through? What's your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, girlfriend? What are they going through?
Yeah.
I don't know. So your empath just turns off. So the people, and I'm assuming there's a sexual aspect. So the people you're having sex with, there's no empathy.
That's so interesting to me that people can actually be physical with and again, it's not coming from a judgment phase because I've done the thing, but like, I have done the thing, okay? But it's also But it's also like at this point in my life now, I really value what togetherness feels like romantically. I really value what like when that physical aspect is merged with like co-regulation or healing components or like I not spirituality but consciousness. It's a different kind of magic. So I'm not even that's such a different safety too. So, like the physical stuff to me is just not appealing anymore because it has to come with all of these other like loving safety measures and to just because somebody has big hands and big feet is just not gonna do it.
Yeah, like you're naked with someone. That is vulnerability just to do
Yeah.
that. You're engaging in however it is you want to do. There's vulnerability in that. You damn well better be able to connect in certain levels. Now, if you're the type of person you have your friends with benefits, one night stands, okay, that's perfectly fine. Float your boat, right?
Yeah.
But we hear stories about people who start off friends with benefits, and then one person's like, "Hey, do you want to end up taking this a little bit further?" Whatever the case is, then you guys end up start doing boyfriend and girlfriend things, and you guys are trying to not put a title on it. That to me is silly.
I agree. I think the surface level kind of relationship is just not appealing. And it's what everybody wants, right? They want to have that deep, meaningful relationship, but one is afraid that the other isn't, or somebody broke their heart 3 months ago and they're just kind of like not doing the work to figure out how they showed up. And then they're gonna just hop in. Like there's so many different dynamics. I just think like me, and I'm just using this as like me stepping into like dating world. I feel like that's not going to be successful for me because I whoever is meant for me, I don't think that they're going to be on a dating website. I think they're gonna be somewhere where they're thriving and they're living their lives and they're pursuing their purpose, and that's where we're gonna match. But there's so many other things when it comes to relationship. Like, I was telling you, like, I felt disgusted with myself when I was 3. And that was incredible because I was being sexually molested at the time. So when I was in other kinds of relationship, it was just to feel something. It was to feel sexy or to feel wanted or to feel desired. But now that I really know what that experience is like to be with someone in that intensity, eye gazing, or like really in love and flowing. I don't like somebody's hands or again, I'm going back to the hand thing, but like those surface level, like I don't want to label you, or I don't like the guy that I was talking about, he just didn't want to be in a committed relationship. And it's like, well, you didn't want to be in a committed relationship, but you did every single thing to end up having a committed relationship now in the form of a child in a whole different country. So no matter what you're trying to do, like figure out what it is that you want. Like I literally sat down and I wrote down, here's the kind of behavior I want at work. This is who I want to show up as a woman. This is the relationships I want to nurture. This is what I want to embody. I want to embody integrity, honesty, devotion. And so if I'm embodying that, I want the person that I'm seeing or dating or trying to get to know to also value that, because then I know that they'll value me because they value it in themselves. So like I feel like there's such like a disconnect from what truly matters and what emotional needs need to be met. And instead of like, this like I'm an empath and I'm a zero to hero ABCD, and this is who I am. Show up for me. It's just the so transactional.
Genie lamp. Let me just
Yes.
grant myself a man or a woman or whomever. I think life is going to come full circle. I think it's going to be that high school, college, we had the privilege or the benefit of meeting potential partners there because we're all at school. Some of us did, some of us didn't. And then let's say our 20s or 30s, if we're not married already, I think we spend a lot of time just around random people because our world becomes so big. But once we get older, the person we're probably going to date is probably going to be a colleague. Not colleague, that's someone we work with, but let's say we have a similar passion, similar industry, but we're separated, right? It could be that you see two therapists dating, or you see two coaches, or you see two bankers, you see two construction workers, right? I think it comes full circle in that way because to your point, you want to be able to come home and you already know that the default conversation is going to be similar because you guys had a similar day,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think that's where things would need to go. Sure, you can have your one-offs, but it's tough when you're so out of line in everything, from growth, from career, from education. That's why you look at the most successful relationships is people who are similar in that regard. Like the movies would tell you that you can get someone that is 100% different from you. Different culture, background, skin color, hair color, education, social status, everything, right? It does happen. But at the end of the day, it's usually someone that's similar education, similar passion, similar beliefs. Because if you're going to introduce children, what are you going to do then?
Mm-hmm. And I mean, if the like I learned this too late, but by 7 years old, if you're not on your healing journey, you pass the baton. You have already passed that shit on to your children. Thankfully, I had a chance to repair it, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. But oh my gosh, like it just, to for two unhealed people who don't know that they have emotional needs or emotional dysregulation or whatever, and then end up having kids, it's just like, oh my, when I remember having my first daughter, I wasn't even like I was a baby myself. Like I was literally 19, 20. I didn't know anything at all. And to put a child in that dynamic, I believe that compassion, people who grew up with compassion, um, no matter what jobs they do or whatever circle they went in, I think people are those people will connect with each other because that compassionate piece and understanding piece is there. I think compassion I read this from the Seat of the Soul, which I believe in, is that compassion and grace and forgiveness and love, those are experiences of the soul. And so on the human journey, and I don't want to take myself out of the human journey, but it just seems like that's the case. We have understanding, but we don't have the compassion that goes with the understanding. So one person always ends up feeling unmet, because there's not that little bit of extra thing that goes into it. So someone like you, I feel like, you've had a journey and I still need to want to learn more about it. But when the way you spoke about your grandmother, there's compassion. Like I already immediately felt the compassion. That's something that you feel. Like I can't, and there's lots of people that I meet and immediately know there's no compassion here. So I'm gonna struggle because I am an empath, right? So I'm gonna need someone to be able to understand and have compassion for that.
Let me ask you one final question before I let you go.
Yeah, because late, man.
I know. Three wishes, my best friend.
Oh.
What are three things you wish people knew about compassion and why?
Oh man. You know, I the the thing that I wish people knew about compassion, I'll say it this way. Sympathy is saying that I feel sorry for what you've gone through or what you're going through. I can understand that is a tough situation. Empathy is I can put myself in your shoe and I can really understand how you feel. And compassion is that I understand how you feel and I want to help. I want to do something about it. How can I support? And so those are the three